Enough Said is brought to you by Sheldon Street Pizza. Visit them online at sheldonstreetpizza.com or stop by Sheldon's during your next trip to Lake Orion. Sheldon Street Pizza, the official pizza of Enough Said. And by Fourth Coast Cider Works. Quality craftsmanship, quality hard cider. You can check them out online at fourthcoastciderworks.com or come get a can or a howler at their Canterbury Village location. Not available for anyone under the age of 21. Please drink responsibly.
Yo, what's happening, everybody? This is Ryan Slocum, and you are listening. There ain't nobody better. This is the best local sports podcast in the biz, and that's Enough Said.
Thank you so much, Ryan Slocum. Ryan was a guest on last week's show to talk about his pro wrestling podcast, The Job Guys. Now, Slocum just produced an episode talking about the 1993 King of the Ring pay-per-view. You can listen to it by heading over to Slocum's YouTube page. Just look for Ryan Slocum and The Job Guys. And thank you, of course, for hitting the play button on your favorite listening device of choice from wherever you listen to podcasts. My name is Duff Tyler, and that's Enough Said. Now, this week, Coach Steve Watkins is back with more lessons that he picked up as a high school football coach. Steve spent more than 20 years coaching high school football in the Pontiac area. In this edition of Lessons from Coach Watkins, Steve tells us what high school athletes should be doing during the summer months and what coaches often deal with in getting them ready for the fall sports schedule. This week's edition of Lessons from Coach Watkins starts now. So, Steve, I know we're now in the month of July, but it's still summertime. So what would you suggest that high school kids should be doing if they're planning on playing high school sports in the fall? What should they be doing right now during the summer?
Well, first of all, Duff, the thing that I think all athletes should be doing is thinking about having fun this summer. That's a period and a time when athletes get a chance to relax and just be themselves. But now the thing that they can do that I think is most helpful and doesn't take a whole lot, doesn't take any special equipment, is to get out and run. Tracks are open, neighborhoods are, a good place to get 2 or 3 guys together and just run. Keep your body active that way. The other thing is, they're going to play sports. Most of them basketball, baseball, different things like that. But you try to make them understand that what they need to be doing is being cautious, in terms of not trying to get themselves injured or hurt or go through a period of time because of that they're going to miss fall sports. As I said, it's a crucial time, but you don't want to put so much pressure on kids that they don't at least feel a part of being a kid, a normal kid. You tax coaches sometimes with keeping in contact with certain players, certain things, and just making sure that if the opportunity presents itself, that they can get together as a group and get out and enjoy themselves.
Now, for kids that maybe focus solely on football, that was the sport that you coached, what do you recommend that kids do right now during the summer to get ready for a sport that is pretty physical, pretty violent, and to make sure they're in good shape coming into practices?
Being in shape, I think, is the best tool that you can have going into the season. It will cut down on injuries. It will cut down on mental mistakes, and I think certain areas like, say, quarterbacks, receivers, if they can get together and pass the ball, toss it around, go through their passing trees, go through their signals, go through different things that only they need to be on the same page on. If they do that, it makes coming into camp a whole lot easier.
What kind of layoff should these kids be taking right now?
Well, and I think sometimes too much is made of what we have to go through in terms of getting prepared and getting ready. One thing I will tell you, kids are very resilient. So the thing that they are able to do is to bounce back and get back into the thick of things very quickly. And that involves being, as coaches, being prepared as well. So when they come in, there's not much downtime. You don't have a lot of time when you reach the month of July. In August, I think you can start having workouts that are basically sanctioned. So, between now and then, as I said again, what you're trying to do is to make sure that you're not tampering, you're not doing things that's going to get your program in any kind of hot water. But as you said, if you have your building open and there's things, that you can offer, like weightlifting and things like that, that's a great time to have it done. Just give them, and don't make it, I'll use the term, don't make it permanent or don't make it mandatory, but to the point of it's open and available. If you can come and do that a couple of days a week, I think any coaching staff would be fine with that.
Now, there is a time during the summer when, as coaches and teachers, you were both,
Yes.
that you don't necessarily have that time with your kids. And this is a chance for them to kind of get a break from school, a break from the norms that come with being a high school athlete. As a coach and teacher, though, what were some of your biggest concerns about your kids during that summertime when you weren't seeing them every day?
Well, I think you and I both know. One of the things is that I said getting into trouble. One thing I remember my dad always coached and taught us was trouble is easy to get into, but it's hard to get out of. So you try to preach that to kids to say, look, it's supposed to be fun. You're supposed to have a great time. You're supposed to enjoy the camaraderie of your teammates, friends, even female friends, Have that time, enjoy that time, but most of all, be safe. And somebody take the lead when you are out in together in groups and whatnot, and make sure everybody arrives and gets home safely.
This is something that you and I talked about in the past, about kids during the summertime and being safe. But what kind of role should the parents be taking in this? Obviously, this is their kids. They're the ones that are responsible for them. What are some things that you recommend they do to, keep an eye on them during the summer and make sure that they don't do anything that might disqualify them from playing high school sports in the fall?
That's a great point, Duff. And as you said again, you have to do it in a way where we used to send letters home with our student athletes at the end of the year. And sometimes it was bullet points and things in terms of things to kind of keep an eye out for, I should say, and make sure that you're monitoring. One of the things I think nowadays, and maybe not so much, Duff, when you and I came along, was drugs, alcohol, and things like that. You can get along with people, but you can get involved with friends who may or may not be athletes. So sometimes you have to, I always thought, put it in their mind that you're part of an elite group when you come out for sports, any sports program that's going on in your school. And so you have to be careful of the things like drugs, alcohol, and getting involved with people who do that. Not saying that they can't be your friends, but you have to make sure that you understand that you have to take care of your body. And you're not going to do that if you're involving yourselves in alcohol and you're involving yourself in drugs, putting more pressure on your parents, to make sure that you're doing these things. You got to step up and become more I would say, just crucially thinking about those things in terms of not just sports, but, in terms of, like you said, being a student too. If you're doing those things and coming to school, you're not going to be able to function. You're not going to be able to function as an athlete,
This is a very important time for kids to be themselves and to enjoy this time away from school and away from all the schedules that they have to keep in order to be high school athletes. But how do coaches and parents avoid letting kids be themselves during this period while still being that key figure in their life?
Well, I think one thing you can and probably should do is make sure that you communicate. With coaches, that's, I think, our bread and butter. We try to make sure that we communicate all aspects of the program that they're being involved in. And not just football. I mean life. I mean life's lessons. I mean being courteous, being, growing up, being, acting your age. The types of things that, like I said, is going to basically shape and mold you. We always tell kids, look, when you start approaching 11th grade, 12th grade year, it's time now to start thinking about that next level. These are some of the things that we put out there for parents and athletes that, at that next level, these are things that college coaches are going to tolerate. These are things that they are not. And as I said, in high school, we may have a little more flexibility and a little more time. In college, no. It's all about the business of what you're there to do. So if you're not preparing for that now, you're not going to be ready for that then. Then we have failed you as coaches. We have failed you as parents.
Want more lessons from Coach Watkins? Then head to my website, aduffsaid.com. Lessons from Coach Watkins is a production of my podcast, A Duff Said. If you would like to get an alert sent to your mobile device every time I post a new show, then become a subscriber. All you got to do is head over to Podbean, Apple Podcasts, the iHeartRadio app, or wherever you get your podcasts. You can follow this podcast just by going to my Facebook page, Sports Journalist Duff Tyler. Look me up on Twitter. The handle is very easy. It's just Duff Tyler. Our announcer this week was Ryan Slocum. Be sure to check out Ryan's pro wrestling podcast, The Job Guys. Just go over to YouTube and look up Ryan Slocum and The Job Guys. All other announcements are done by Steve Gale, the best high school sports public address announcer in the state of Michigan. And that's a wrap on this edition of A Duff Said. Remember, if Duff said it, it must be true, because that's what a Duff said. Once again, here's Steve Gale. Happy belated birthday, Steve.
Thanks for listening, folks. You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here.